Nancy, everyone. This is Jeff and his buddy Will for episode 4, part 1 of the We the PPL vodcast. We are beaming to you from Treaty 6 territory. And today we are going to be taking a look at some recent news for the PPL, having a look at one of the clubs involved, Bonivital Flames FC, doing a bit of a rundown of the rest of the Premier Soccer Leagues Canada leagues across the country. And then taking a quick look at what finances for this level of leagues actually looks like for the clubs, doing a bit of a overview of what that looks like. So just to start things off, we'll jump right into the PPL news roundup. So Bonivital actually just released over Instagram that they are going to be doing a second round of tryouts for their men's team. That's going to be happening on April 5th out at the University of Winnipeg field. And this will actually, you can hear this in the interview with Bonivital, which will be in part 2, that we know there's going to be some player announcements that are likely to start coming out next week for many of the clubs in the league. So that'll be something exciting to look forward to. But that's enough for me. How you doing, Will?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a nice day down in sunny Regina. Back again now. I mean, it wasn't sunny down there, but it was a nice day. So we're going to talk a little bit about Bonivital, and you're going to have a great time listening to the folks that we spoke to just before here. So Bonivital in Winnipeg, their home stadium is in Memorial Field in Winnipeg, and that's their own facility they have there. They have multiple turf pitches, indoor pitches, and an outdoor grass pitch as well. So that's great to have that in their back pocket, to have that club to build around. They have many honors throughout their career. They were, I think, established, what did we say, 1979? Around then. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And then their honors, they've won the National Challenge Cup gold medal in 1991 and 2017. They've been silver medalists 3 times, bronze medalists 3 times. They have over 1,500 active members of their system from youth to adults. So it's a huge pool that they can bring in and up through this PPL team over time. And lots of their players had moved through FC Manitoba when they played in the USL. So nice that they can keep that all in-house now, or for the most part. They'll be fielding both men's and women's teams as well in that league.
Yeah, that was an absolutely spectacular interview that we had with them the other night. Truth be told, we did the interview before doing this first part, and an incredible amount of experience they have in their coaching staff. I think they probably are going to be leading the league with the amount of experience that they have with their coaches, both on the men's and women's side. So interesting to see how this first season goes for them.
Yeah.
So I thought we would take a look at how large the Premier Soccer Leagues Canada, formerly League One Canada, actually is, because I don't know if a lot of people realize, how big a deal it is for us to become part of the family, so to speak. So just taking a look from west to east, there's the BC Premier League, Alberta Premier League, now of course the Prairies Premier League, the Ontario Premier League, and then, we'll still call it Liga in Quebec for now, but we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But just within Ontario alone, Ontario breaks down to Ontario Premier League 1, Premier League 2, League 3, and then they even have what used to be called reserves, and I'm trying to recall if they changed that name as well, but there's 4 different levels altogether just within Ontario. And they also have even instituted promotion and relegation between those levels. Same thing in Quebec. So Quebec's leagues break down from Liga, Ligue 2, and Ligue 3, and have a form of promotion and relegation between those leagues as well. I don't know if it's quite as traditional as the way that the Ontario Premier League is set up, with a genuine X number of teams that finish at the top of their league move up to the next level, and vice versa, teams at the bottom that move down. But it's quite significant. We've never really had anything like this for the sport in this country before, and so lots of aspirations for what could happen with the PPL here. I mean, who could, as the league expands, we could potentially even see that multi-tiered system here at some point. Like in the past, what have we really seen before? Nothing
Yeah,
like
I
this,
mean,
right?
when I moved over in 2007, there was just nothing, right? And it's certainly grown from there. And you're right, there is a under 23 reserved league as in addition to those leagues that you mentioned in Ontario, I think. But then we know they've tested the waters in the Maritimes. They did 2 years of summer competitions to drive up some interest there. It hasn't happened for them so far, but we're hoping that is going to come after the PPL, maybe next summer would be awesome.
Yeah,
And up north, there have been rumors of going further north and expanding up that way, which would be just incredible to have that
yeah.
coast to coast and then top to bottom. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. With that, what was happening out in the Atlantic region, I'm trying to recall what they had actually called that. It was essentially like an Atlantic like series. It was kind of like the Saskatchewan Summer Soccer Series we did here. They basically the same type of idea. And the Halifax Wanderers fielded essentially it was like an Atlantic Selects,
Nice.
but they were essentially affiliated with the Halifax Wanderers CPL side, and they ended up playing Wrexham, if I recall, like AFC Wrexham,
Yeah,
in
that's right.
in a friendly, which was, I mean, to have that kind of publicity is incredible, and to not even have the league yet. And I agree. I think that once, maybe next summer or maybe the summer after, if they need a couple summers just to ensure that things are stable for the PPL, I absolutely believe that PSL Canada is going to be launching that league in the Maritime region, because the same thing kind of happened here for the PPL. They needed to make sure that both the Alberta Premier League and the BC Premier League were stabilized before they felt it was right to launch things here. Because way back in the day, it was actually the Prairies League that was kind of ahead of things between us and BC and Alberta, which is interesting. I was actually involved in a call. I'm trying to think how many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that it had initial interested parties in putting teams into a Prairies. At the time, it was going to be called. I'm trying to remember if it was going to be called League One Prairies or League One West. It had a name similar to that, and yeah, it was interesting that we were kind of the front runners before even BC and Alberta. And it was only because things finally started to move forward in BC that this league, the PPL, kind of was pushed back momentarily, so that they could get things launched there. So yeah, as things expand, it'll be interesting to see how this pyramid can really start to take shape under the
Absolutely.
PSL Canada
Yeah, and
banner.
it's
So.
moving up because this is considered Division 3, right? D3.
Yeah,
This league, isn't it?
National
Yeah.
D3 essentially
Mhm.
is. I know that there are kind of discussions of eventually bringing. I don't know if it would be sides from the CPL and sides from like PSL Canada together to form like a national Division Two, or if they're now maybe looking at like the BCPL, APL, PPL, etc., to kind of eventually form that
Yeah,
second
move
division
up.
themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's another thing it'll be interesting to follow to see if that's the evolution that the Canadian semi-pro and pro soccer pyramid takes.
It's pretty even in the numbers of teams. Alberta has 8 and 8, or maybe 7 in the men's side and 8 in the women's. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But then the same in BC, 8 and 8 again. Prairies were pretty close to that. So yeah, I know they were hoping to have 8, and we have 6, 6 and 6. But that's something we can grow. But on the other side, so definitely heavy on that numbers because they've been going so much longer that it's really ingrained over there. So.
Yeah, well, it'll also be curious to see if they end up with 7-7 in this league next summer. If Lucania end up putting a men's side in, and if Forza do end
Forza.
up putting a women's side. I know it'll make scheduling a little bit awkward. There'll obviously be a single team out every weekend. They'll essentially have like a bye week, if you want to call it that. But any expansion early on, I think, would be a sign of a healthy league. So hopefully we do see that. So continuing on kind of with the overall PSLC news. So Ligue 1 Quebec, or what was formerly known as Ligue 1 Quebec, has actually just rebranded as LS Pro, or Ligue de Soccer Pro, and is still going to maintain the same structure. So there's still going to be Ligue 1, Ligue 2, and Ligue 3. But it's all going to be under a slightly different banner than the rest of the PSLC leagues. They're leave it to Quebec to always maintain their own little touch on naming, so to speak. So that's going to be interesting to see how Quebec continues to take shape for this year.
Yeah. And we have some, I mean, this is older news, but it's talking about the pathways in these new leagues in Canada. In Alberta, the champions were Calgary Blizzard in the men's side last year. And the winners of the leagues in each of these Canadian Premier Leagues, leagues that we have, they all go on to be in the Canadian National Championship. So Calgary Blizzard, they won, they get in, and they get drawn against CF Montreal of the MLS. That's a real rags to riches story there. David and Goliath there. It's just a huge thing. So when we talk about extreme pathways, and then this is the best thing about football. It's all about the fairy tale stories. But if you win the league in the PPL, then in time we'll be qualifying for the Canadian Championships. If you win that, then you qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League and play all the best teams in CONCACAF. Let's say the team went on and won that, you then can go on to the FIFA Club World Cup or the FIFA Intercontinental Cup. It's like it's endless, the pathways of the teams. Like you could have Bayern Munich coming to Saskatoon. I know it's pathway, but the pathway is there. But that's the dream, right? It's there.
Yeah. I think we're probably decades away from any type of scenario like that. But I absolutely, a club from here, if they do well, can potentially bring let's like a CPL or especially an MLS side to town. I know Blizzard are actually traveling to play away in Montreal, but at Stade Saputo, which will be an absolutely fantastic experience for them, to just young guys being able to play in that type of intensity, that type of venue. But honestly, the real dream, of course, is hosting a big dog here. It'd be curious to see where they would play, if they would end up maybe moving it to either SMF Field or Griffiths, just for capacity's sake. They probably
when it's Bayern Munich, it's got to be at Mosaic, right? It's
yeah. So you're saying it's going to be QC United? That's eventually going to be hosting Bayern Munich. We'll put that down on the docket for
but I mean,
sometime in the 2060s.
But on the flip side, on the women's side, so there is no Canadian Championship for the women. I mean, what's up with that, Jeff?
Yeah, I know. They still have the Interprovincial Cup, which is just played between the PSL Canada League champions. But I know there was some rumors that were coming out already last year that they were looking at doing essentially a women's Canadian Championship. There hasn't really been anything recently as to whether that's going to happen or not. Hopefully it does. I mean, hopefully the NSL clubs want to play ball and see that there be value in being a part of that type of competition, because they, of course, now the NSL clubs are part of the CONCACAF Women's Champions Cup.
Yes.
So there's no reason why they shouldn't want to play ball with the PSL Canada clubs.
They're not scared. The NSL clubs aren't scared of getting beat by the PLSC clubs, right?
No, I don't think. Well, I mean, realistically, I think it would be a Herculean effort for one of them to be beaten. So, but you never know. It's cup football, right?
That's
cup
it.
Football's magical. So
and talking about that into the interprovincial crossovers, in the original document that was released on the Saskatchewan Soccer Association about this league, when it was previously going to be named League One Prairies before the rebrand, but it did show there were plans for a potential crossover cup with the Alberta Premier League team. So maybe that's something in future years we'll see, a little crossover between our two leagues here, in addition to what we've got.
Yeah. So kind of continuing on with the pathways. So a couple of player signings that happened. One for the CPL, we'll start there. So Thomas Skublak was a player who had been in what was formerly League One Ontario, now of course Ontario Premier League. Had a lot of success in that league. Eventually ended up getting signed by, was it Halifax? Was it the Wanderers that had
Yep.
Skublak? Yeah, Halifax Wanderers had originally signed him. Eventually lost his spot and ended up moving back to an OPL club. And just recently now has been signed back to the CPL after a couple of years playing in the OPL for Inter Toronto, formerly York United, but now Inter Toronto. And then another player, not necessarily signing to the CPL, but a former CPLer, Zakaria Bahus, who used to play initially for Atletico Ottawa, but now, and then moved on to Pacific FC, has signed for CS Saint Laurent in Liga in LS Pro in Quebec. And so the pathways do exist for players at this level to be seen, especially in the Canadian Championship. The key always seems to be that the club makes the Canadian Championship, plays against either an MLS or a CPL side, and then a few players get that opportunity to be scouted in a match against that higher opposition, and find their way to a contract at that higher level. So again, another reason why that level of competition is so important.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. I mean, if you want just another example of the importance of this league is exactly this situation. So Skublak, he was prolific when he went back to the OPL. Like I think he scored like 56 goals in 65 matches there since 2017 when he went back there. So it's like bringing these players back even from Europe. They've gone over to Europe and they come back if they're out of a club, unattached 11. If they're back over here, they can play with the team and then re-immerse themselves and come back up. And we're seeing that even with the Canadian Premier League at a higher level. So Vancouver just signed a huge name player that played in the Premier League. He's fallen on some not great times right now in terms of fitness and form, but it's that platform to come back in, get playing, get fitter, get noticed again on the platform that the league is giving you, and then hopefully step back up, which is what Skublak's done here. So,
yeah, who is that? The guy that was signed to Vancouver? I know I think played for AFC Bournemouth in the Prem, if I
he's
recall.
a striker.
Yeah, Lise Mousset, that's who it is. Yeah.
He's had a torrid time with injuries. He was in the Premier League there for Sheffield United first, and then Bournemouth, and then I think in Germany, like somewhere in Germany before, and he's just been out of contract for a little bit.
Yeah, but that'll be interesting. So I guess a little side note CPL news there too. Anything else for the PSLC? I think there's one more item.
Yeah, we're looking out until Alberta there. So we said that there were 8 teams, and it's just been announced that Edmonton Scottish will no longer be a part of the league in this season, although are hopeful of coming back. So reported by the Northern Tribune and John Jacks over there, they pulled out over an issue with how funds are being raised from their own statement. So in their statement, they said currently most League One funding models rely heavily on youth registration fees, and they do not believe senior teams should be funded solely on the backs of children who are choosing to stand firmly behind that principle. So we believe the registration dollars should support the program it comes from. So that's the stance of pulling out on the league, but also noted in that article that they've been in some financial issues as well, citing the Edmonton Journal's Stephen Sandor reporting last year that the club had liabilities in excess of like $1 million there. So whether the two are related or not, I'm not sure, but sad that a big name team has pulled out of that league, at least for this year.
Yeah, that is a big name team. I mean, Edmonton Scottish is one of the historical sides from Edmonton. You know, on the amateur side, they've almost consistently been challenging for the Alberta Amateur Championship and then playing and challenging for Canadian Nationals at Toyota Nationals. So it's quite surprising that they are the club from the APL that's stepping back. But hopefully they find some stability and are only out for maybe just this one season. But I guess we'll we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And I think that takes us to the last thing that we wanted to look at for part one, is taking a look at what finances kind of look like at the PSLC level for the individual clubs. So I'll start things off, and we know, and it's funny, it came from Forza Academy's site that they posted that the approximate budgets, at least for the PPL clubs for this first season, is about 100,000. And I think that's for just one of the teams. I think that's 100K just for the men's, and it might be 100K for each team. So clubs are probably looking at around 200,000 combined, fielding both men's and women's teams, and that's not a small amount to have to cover. Whether it's an academy, a youth club, or a private club that's coming into the league. So, so then it comes down to, well, what are some of the ways that clubs are able to cover that cost? So I know, and you can take it here, that Thunder Bay had released some of their pricing information for the season.
Yeah. So I know we'll be able to see the slide as well. But season tickets around starting at $10 per game. So, I mean, if you're hopeful of getting 1,000 fans out, then you're covering that 100K by having those 10 games there, hopefully at 1,000 fans. But that's a big ask. Sponsorship is a big way of pulling some money in and fundraising. Lots of clubs are doing very different and creative ways of fundraising. But from what we understand, there isn't any drawing on any of the youth element of clubs, and certainly some of the clubs don't have that basis of having a youth team. Lots of them do, but some of them have come the other way. Like Lucania, they started with the men's adult team and now are only just getting into the youth and the women's side, so they don't have that place to draw from. But that's kind of the rough pricing on that. We also heard that what it says on Forza's side that they will be charging some of their players to pay and play in the league. So that'll be some way of fundraising a little bit towards it.
Well, hopefully we see that type of fundraising take a backseat moving forward. I know, this league has to start somewhere. And so obviously there will be some initial decisions that have to be made just for clubs to be able to, stay healthy throughout this and maybe the first couple of seasons. But obviously that's a type of fundraising that we do hope to see go away and get replaced, probably best case scenario with sponsorship dollars, to see the business community start to rally around the teams in the league, and start to, bring some revenues into the league via sponsorships. It comes down to community buy-in, really, is what it is. It comes down to the community getting behind the teams that are in the league and helping to ensure that this pathway for young up and coming, high performance players remains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I've seen and chatter about whether we're ready as a province here, and well, we're going to find out really soon about that. And I think people are going to be surprised with the quality that is here. And I'll say this too, not everything's going to be perfect from the start. We know that. And there's a point where we have to hit the start button and get something started here. Sometimes we're guilty of purposely looking for reasons why we can't do something rather than reasons that we should be doing something. And how much longer can we wait here and afford to wait here whilst the rest of the country has already had that head start in the pyramid and it's getting further and further ahead as we're not acting because maybe we're not ready. Well, we don't know until we go for it right now, and we'll see where it goes. But this whole league's about development, and it's leveling up and growing that system up. So when you're buying into this league, whether that's attending games or helping sponsor a team, however much or however little, that's helping out. You're investing in the future of youth to pursue a career in soccer. And that's all that's been slammed shut in Saskatchewan and lots of other parts of this country for far, far too long.
Yeah, well, I know up to this point, pretty well all high performance players have had to leave, right? So whether it's, Brett Levi, for example, having to head out to the Whitecap system, or Kaylin Kyle having to head out of province to be able to pursue national team aspirations. That's just two names out of a pretty big basket of players that have had to leave to be able to pursue that higher level of soccer. So I think on that note, that's a good spot to probably end things off. So being released right away will be part 2 of episode 4, which is going to feature an interview with the coaching staff and technical director of Bonivital Flames FC out of Winnipeg. So again, this is Jeff, Will, and cheers everyone. We the PPL podcast.